Why do you think this generation is so scared of commitment?
Commitment. So I think it's a few things, right? I think number one, it's they saw a lot of their parents get divorced. Okay. So a lot of these millennials parents had unhealthy relationships. They were together because they were focused on building something, right? A legacy. They were trying to get wealth and all these other kind of things.
Yeah.
Right. But there probably wasn't a lot of romanticized relationships back then. Now everything's more romanticized. So what happens ultimately is the reasons that your parents, if they stayed together, it was probably toxic a lot of times. And if they broke up, it broke your heart, right? As a kid, because you probably blamed yourself or whatever it is, right? Until you became old enough to process. So a lot of times that creates fear in millennials. They're like, I ain't touching that stove. It looked hot. You see what I mean? Or my mom always was unhappy, or she, these kind of things. The other side of this, though, is it goes back to that FOMO piece. If I commit to one person, I don't have access to all the other ones, right? Because you got to think, sex is easier to get now than ever. You see what I mean? So like when you swipe and you can do it like it's nothing. So when I commit, I got to give that up, that potential to get those dopamine hits over and over and over again. And it also means I may have to give up something. Okay. And so a lot of us, especially younger millennials, they don't want to give up anything for someone else. They just want everybody to have it all together. And we come together and combine our resources. And it doesn't really work that way in reality.
And that's the thing too. And I think even with me sometimes, like I said, I live by myself. I like being by myself. Like I like being in my house, because when you get married, you have to give that up. And because like you said, it's a service thing. And I think a lot of times people get married just for that, it look good and I'm supposed to. And of course, I feel like not everyone is supposed to, but a lot of us are called to be married, and we will be eventually. But some of us don't want to get married because we have seen a divorce, and we don't want to get married because we mentally just like, I'm not ready for all of A, B, C, D, E, F, G that comes with it, because marriage is not easy. And so I think that's a lot of it too, because I feel like it's a good fear. I feel like in a sense, there's a healthy fear of commitment and there's a negative and an unhealthy fear of commitment.
Yeah.
And so the healthy fear is I want to be able to give my all to somebody without, worrying about myself. And I know I'm real selfish right now. Then the unhealthy is I got all the hoes and I ain't trying to dump them at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was funny, man, is I'm okay with people waiting later to get married. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I think even the data would suggest that if people get married, I think 28 plus, their marriages tend to last, I forget the exact number, but a lot longer, right? Because by that time you've developed some sort of identity, right? You've got identity. You're establishing your career a little bit more. You got some other things together versus when you like early 20s and you trying to go through that roller coaster of life in your 20s and you try to combine that with someone else, sometimes you're not in a position to sacrifice as much. You see what I mean? So I don't think when I say commitment, it's not necessarily negative that people have that healthy fear of commitment. It becomes negative when it's because of like selfishness, just selfishness.